Hey guys, several months ago we had a special friend of ours on the podcast named Andrew. He's a really smart guy, does a lot of things in business and real estate. We never got to finish our conversation. So today we're going to try to finish that conversation and have some new ones. But I would like to welcome you. Andrew, how are you today, sir?
Awesome. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on and yeah, excited to chat.
Oh, perfect. Oh, and just in case you guys are wondering, Kendall is on vacation with his wife. She had a birthday, and birthdays are important. And so we just heard it from the horse's mouth. He went to Disneyland, got upgraded to like the suite that has somehow Indiana Jones.
It's like
what is it?
It's like the best suite at Disneyland. Like,
how much does it cost?
I want to say like $5,000 a night.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? It's ridiculous. It's like, dude, you are. And he's like sending pictures in this like text thread, like, look at us guys. I'm like, you schmuck.
I know he's
have fun.
Oh my gosh, I'm jealous, dude. So this week I went to. Have you ever heard of Hersheyland, Hershey Chocolate Land?
No, I mean I know Hershey's, but I don't know like there's a theme park for it.
Hershey has a theme park.
Oh my gosh,
yeah. And you get off rides. It's like magical. There's chocolate everywhere. You make your own chocolate shakes, things like that.
All I can see in my head is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Please tell me they had like
it's
Charlie
exactly that. Yeah,
is it that? 100%. It's that. Yeah, oh my gosh! Except the like weird demented stuff.
This is great though. I loved it. I had a really, really good time because of the rides, all that stuff. But the funny thing about me is I actually hate sugar. So I was, it was like all lost on me. I'm like, this looks so good. I want to be able to enjoy it, but I can't enjoy that.
Wow.
I know. It was so cool. Okay, but here, dude, skipping all of that, I want to start off with a idea for you. I want you to tell me if it's a good idea, bad idea.
Okay, all right.
If you just give me your knee-jerk reaction. Okay.
I'm ready.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I find it hard to keep up with podcasts. What I would like to do is go to a website that says, pick your podcast. We'll summarize it for you every single week, just what happened that week, and just click up all the podcasts you want, and we'll just give you like the quick paragraph to 2 paragraph summary.
Oh,
and if you want to go listen to it that week, go for it. If not, that's okay. Do you like it? Would you use it? Is it a good business?
I like it. I think that depends on your personality. Okay. So for me, I would love it because it'll tell me like, if I've got a podcast I'm listening to, there's like 400 episodes. I'm not going to listen to 400 episodes.
No way.
So I'm like trying to use the titles to figure out which one to listen to, which one's best. Cause it goes back like 5 years and the content doesn't like get stale. Like it's still valuable. I just don't want to listen to all 400. So for me, it would be awesome. For my wife, she's listening to the same podcast, but she's a completionist. And she's like starting from episode 1. And I'm like, that is just ridiculous. Like, who are you and why are you doing this? So, but I don't think everyone's like her. I don't think most people are like her. I think it's a great idea. I think, so this is what I would imagine to cut the time down. So like, if you could somehow figure out a way to get AI to listen to the episodes and then spit out the summary of them, and then go back and so are you thinking like you would audio record like
that's what
3 minutes of each one? Yeah. So you're like listening to the 3-minute version of the podcast.
Oh.
Is that what you're thinking?
Well, I was going to listen to the whole thing.
No. I mean, as a listener, like as a user, I would listen to the 3-minute Dustin version and then decide is that kind of what you were thinking?
Well,
or
I
you
was thinking
different?
written summary. So you get AI to listen and then summarize, and it can give you a general summary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then in your website, newsletter, however you want to monetize it, that's the hard part. But the person says, ooh, okay, look at this. That does look like a good episode. Because if you go to Apple Podcasts or anything like that, the summaries are essentially kind of useless most of the time. Most people don't know how to do it, especially as like what you do. If you have a podcast that has 400 episodes, at the beginning, I guarantee they weren't good at it.
Oh my gosh. No, they weren't. Yeah. No, they were not at all. They're still not very good at it, to be honest.
Oh, good. Well, hey, I'm right in front of you. Don't say that.
No, not you. The other podcast, the other one, the other guys. You guys are great.
Okay. Okay. So, how do you think it would make money? Do you think it would make money?
Probably ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine ads. I mean, you could do a subscription-based model, but I feel like I don't know that I would pay like for a subscription for that. But if it's like the app has ads or the website has ads, because if it's like a podcast app. Then you can have like little banner ads and stuff and such, or it depends on if you would build your own app for it. Like if you're building your own iOS app or Android app, you could build it. No, just a website. Just like boom, look at our website.
I mean, I wouldn't build my own app for it.
Yeah.
I guess you could make it a whole podcast hosting app, but that would be so hard. I think the easier thing is just to literally have website with ads. I'm a huge fan of ads. I don't like getting subscriptions. Nobody wants to be nickel and dime for that anymore. I have subscription fatigue. I'm sure you do as well. I just deleted so many the other day. Oh, gosh, it's stressful. Stressful to know that you spent money on that stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm a subscription. I don't want to say Nazi because it's not PC anymore, but like I don't like subscriptions either, so I avoid them.
Is it not PC? How is it not PC?
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I just avoid anything. Are
Nazis
that's even
still
in
the bad guys? Are they not
the
bad guys anymore?
They are. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's just like, so many rules now.
Well, there are certain things, but I feel like we can all get behind the Nazis were actually the bad guys in this scenario. And so if you call somebody a Nazi, it's generally bad versus.
Agreed. But I'm like calling myself a Nazi. Like I'm a subscription Nazi. Like, I don't know. I just, the rules are changing so fast and I just don't really keep up with it. So I'm like, everything's. Or I could just have no filter. Is this the No Filter podcast or is this the Filter podcast?
I'd say we're like 2 degrees from a No Filter podcast.
Okay, then I am a subscription Nazi all the way.
That's funny. Dude, did you this is totally aside. Did you know that I think it was meth. Meth was really prevalent during the Nazi regime.
Huh, really?
And so there's tons of evidence that like part of the reason why they were so insane is because they were completely high out of their mind the entire time.
Wow, that's crazy.
Like all of the upper leadership,
they were
just doing meth every single day. There's a whole book on it. It's really fascinating. I'm going through it. I love it. Okay, so there you go. That's my intro idea for you. I did not prep you very much for this podcast. So before we get into anything, I want to ask you, is there anything you brought that you want to talk about today?
I've got a handful of things, but let's just riff. I would, ask me. I hear you had a lot of questions or some questions that you could just kind of lead in with.
I did have some questions,
and I'll jump in with my things if they're relevant. I didn't really spend a lot of time coming up with ideas, but I have a handful. I have some in my pocket if we need them. So
perfect. Okay. Yep. This is going to be selfish. So you are really good at real estate. You've do you own several properties?
I do.
Give me a quick quick summary. How do you know?
Yep. Yeah. So we have. I think of it in terms of doors. So we have 7 doors. I would say we're not like real estate moguls. 7 doors and 3 properties. So we own a 4-plex that has 4 units in it. It's one of those multiplex buildings. We own a house in a nice neighborhood that we rent out for really like we got like top of the market rents on that one. That's a fun story.
Nice.
And then we have 2 Airbnbs. So that's 7 doors total. And we've been, and it's not something that we've like really pursued as a profession. It's just like as we go through life and as opportunities arise, hey, let's also be building real estate while we're doing it. So that's been our strategy. So it's not, I wouldn't say I'm like a mogul, but I have paid quite a bit of money. I paid a big guru like $35,000. I paid $30,000 for education 10 years ago.
Whoa.
And then I paid a coach $10,000 a couple years after that.
The coach or was it a mastermind?
Yeah. So what's funny is the coach, we paid the coach because he was our favorite trainer from the school that we paid. So the coach went off and did his own thing. We're like, hey, he did his own thing. And I then reached out to him directly and I was like, hey, can you like coach me directly? And he did. So I paid him money to coach me directly. So we paid a lot of money. We started out flipping houses more. So we flipped 4 or 5 houses, I think. We didn't really like flipping houses as much, but we love rentals. So now we're in the rental game. So that's my quick real estate history. So I wouldn't say I'm like a mega expert, but I would say I'm the expert at getting into real estate as a very beginner. That's my niche. Because sometimes people are like, they know so much crazy information that they just can't distill it down for a beginner anymore because they've been in it for so long. So, but that's not me.
Okay, this is very good. So I have very practical questions to ask you then. I own one house. Shoot. I rent it out.
Yep.
Beautiful. I just moved to Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Should I buy a 4-plex or should I buy a property out here? Or should I not do it? Is it worth it? Let's take time in the market. And then what should I buy if I was going to do it? Now you seem to be, just tell me what you do.
Great question. I love all those questions. All right, so I'll take each one at a individually. So fourplex, I love fourplexes.
Yeah.
I'll speak to my market at first, and then I'll talk about Pennsylvania. I know less about Pennsylvania. So at least in my market, fourplexes are pretty rare because people want them, and so they're harder to find. So if you can find one, absolutely. Triplexes are good. Duplexes are also good. What I love doing with fourplexes, triplexes, or duplexes, this is how we got into real estate, and this tip is worth its weight in gold. Okay, so what you do, first of all, you do have to get a down payment. That's the hard part. Normally,
what? Keep going. I was going to ask you what percentage of it.
Yep,
I got you. Right?
Yeah. Yep. You're on it. That's exactly where I was going. So, typically, a down payment on a fourplex is 25%. Triplex is 20%. And a duplex is 15%, and a single family is 10%, traditionally. And on a $500,000 fourplex, 25% is a ridiculous sum of money. $125,000. Nobody has $125,000 in their pocket. Well, I mean, that's not true. People do. But like, if you're where I was, and you're starting out, you don't have that kind of cash. So the secret, the trick, okay, is if you get qualified for an FHA loan using the FHA administration, and pretty much anyone can qualify, not necessarily anyone, but what FHA does is it allows you, there are some stipulations. The biggest one is that you have to plan on living in it for a year. You don't actually have to live in it for a year. You just have to tell the bank, I intend to live in this property for at least a year. And they're like, okay, good, checkbox, done. So if you do that, that brings the percentage of down payment down for any of the units, single, double, tri, or quad, down to 3.5%. So now instead of having to pay $150,000 or $125,000 on a $500,000 fourplex, what is the math on that? 15,000, 30,000. Right? Yeah. So $15,000, which is still a sum of money. You kind of have to grind, hustle for that. Or you could borrow it from friends or family. You could make contacts with people. You could say, hey, if you loan me $15,000, I'll pay you back, at 10% interest. 10% interest is, and then you can have that person say, hey, and you can, if you have people that have even a small amount of money, say, look, I need a down payment to get this property. If you're willing to, loan me this money at 10% interest, I'll let you take second lien position against it. So if I default, then you can have the money. Or if you have a family member, you can call it a gift. So sometimes that can cause challenges with lenders where they're like, they don't want you to have a second loan. So it's better if it's called a gift. And then, maybe you just plan on down the road returning the favor. I can't say that you're paying it back because then it would be a loan, but you're returning the favor with a little extra. So that, and with FHA, it also allows you to get into real estate with a lower credit score. FHA has more wiggle room for credit when you have not as great credit.
But what about me, since I own a property in California? I'm able to get it simply because I moved, just no matter what, boom, square one?
Yeah, if you already, so people think FHA is first-time home buyers, but it's not really just first-time home buyers. So we got an FHA loan on our fourplex when we bought it, and we lived in it. I lived in that property, and I didn't tell any of the other 3 tenants that I was the owner, which was great.
So smart.
Yeah, because I don't. Oh yeah. I've got a ton of stories. Because what I didn't want is I didn't want people knocking on my door at 3 a.m. saying they have a leaky faucet. I didn't want people knocking on my door asking if they can not pay rent for a week. So I paid a property management company. Charged me 8%, 7%, somewhere around there. Sometimes they go up to 10%. And they collected the rents. They dealt with all the leaky faucets. And I just lived there as a tenant. And the other 3 tenants paid for my rent. And so I literally lived free. I did not have a dwelling expense because the other 3 tenants paid for my mortgage.
Did you have any problems with them leaving at all? So let's say it's unoccupied for 3 months. Yeah. That's 3 months rent you have to come up.
It is.
If there's 3 of the 4 places that are unoccupied for 3 months, oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's where it gets dicey. I've never had that problem. And the reason is because I pay a property management company for it. At least the company that I pay, property management, they're good at some things. They're not good at others. What they're good at and I don't want to speak for every company, but you want to find a company that's at least like this. They are really good at filling the unit. And so when you're
getting paid from that.
Yep. Because if you're not getting paid, they're not getting paid. And so just make sure that if you do that and you want to go through a management company, which I highly recommend, ask them questions like, what is, and I would do your own research as well, not just trust the management company, but like there's websites you can look up. I don't have them offhand, but to find the average rent rates, average vacancy rates in your area. But right now, especially where the market is, it is because of like inflation and property prices going up, it's harder to get into real estate. But part of the reason for that is that it's so hard to build new real estate. There's so much red tape, there's so many regulations. And so demand is greater than supply. I mean, that's good for existing property owners because their real estate values go up. And it's good for landlords because the more people want real estate, and that's true for rentals too. Like more people want to rent than there is a supply for rent. And so like if you're ever in a pinch and you're like, I just need this place rented, you actually just drop your rent lower than the average and it'll get filled real quick. And so like if your average rent, if you could get $1,200 a door, lower it down to $950 and you won't have vacancy problems. But even with that, I never had a problem with that because, we paid a property management company and we made sure that the area that we were investing in, had, was a good area to buy. So, so to answer your first question, fourplexes, I love fourplexes. If you can get one, definitely do it. Get it out in FHA. Depending on your credit, you may have to get a cosigner. I don't know what your credit is. Quick little plug though. Okay, I'm doing this now. So little also tip. So when we were flipping houses, we've kind of adopted this. I don't know that I would recommend it to people, but we would play credit ping pong frequently. So when we were flipping houses, sometimes to get a house to the finish line, we would, use private lenders to lend us money to rehab the property. Well, sometimes we needed a little bit of a bridge loan. We didn't really want to have to ask an investor for an extra 20 grand. So we would just load it up on personal credit cards. And once we got it off the finish line, then we sold the property and big windfall, paid all our debts off. But the problem with that is credit companies don't really know what to do with us. And so like mine personally, we tried to leave my wife's insulated so that she had more consistent. So if we needed like a car loan, we could get it. But my credit has just like waffled back and forth. Like high fives, low sixes, 750, high fives, low sixes. Because what happens is like when you're maxed out to the gills, they don't want to loan you any money. But when you pay everything off instantly and you have like this massive like free credit, then you're like, wow, this guy's so responsive. And it takes like 4 to 6 months to get to that point. But if you have poor credit, we actually started doing this because we're on this side of the waffle right now. So I started using an app called Credit Versio. And what it does, it's really cool. I should be getting a paid plug for this, but I'm not. So, take that for what it is. It's an authentic plug. So what it is if you have bad credit, you pay them like $20 a month and they run your credit. They check all of your positive, negative, neutral flags. And then they use AI to generate, I don't know if it's really AI. It's probably just statistics. What is the best way to contest this? Did you know you can contest your credit?
Yeah, I've heard that. And it's been, oh gosh. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. So you can contest your credit. I'll start with that. Legally. So you have 3 credit bureaus and each one is independent of the other. And it's just a roll of the dice which one your lender decides to use. So you want to make sure all 3 of them are contested. And legally, if you write a letter to a credit bureau, they are required to respond within 30 days. And if they do not, then it has to be eliminated from your credit report. So if you have a 90-day late and you write the credit bureau and you say, hey, I don't remember that 90-day late, prove it. They have 30 days to prove it. And if they don't, it gets erased.
See, I thought about playing this game. I had a few problems in college, just like every other kid has a few problems in college. And I made some problems. Anyways, I couldn't stomach doing it because I was like, oh, I'm just trying to beat the system. But you're on board. You say, yeah, no, do it.
Absolutely. I have no problem. So here's my thing. I have no problem beating the system because the system is going to grind you down for all you're worth. That's what I think.
This is great. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I think credit as a whole is ridiculous. Like they offer points. Oh, you get 2% airline points while they're making 25% interest on your money.
Yeah.
So I am, and it's like, okay, so the US government that's like what, $16 trillion in debt wants to give me a credit rating? like the logic of that is ridiculous. So
oh god. Well, okay, the national debt there has other issues with that.
That's a whole rabbit trail.
Oh, it's a great rabbit trail. We should
it is. It is.
Okay, so you actually did it. You're like, all right, I'm messaging these people. I'm getting the score up. I'm going to beat them down while I can. Does it work?
So it does. It absolutely does. So what you do, like this one that I'm referencing, there's a bunch of you can do. So what a lot of them do is you pay them to do it for you.
Oh,
it's like
nice.
$150 a month though.
Ooh,
if you want to, it's not nice. But this one, it's $20 a month because you do some footwork. So what it does is it spits out, you've got 3 credit bureaus. They assess each credit bureau. They look at all of the positive, negative, and neutral items on your credit report. And then it's super easy. You like push a button, generate disputes, and then it spits out all 9 disputes on the app. And then you just click. It has a recommended dispute reason based on statistics. They call it AI. I don't know if it's really AI. You click, they will determine what the best course of action is. You just, that sounds good. Click, 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 done. Generate report. They put all of the disputes on a single piece of paper. You print it out, put it in the mail, and you send it. You send out 3 letters. It's so easy. I did it in like 30 minutes or like including sign up time.
Yeah.
So you send it in the mail to all 3 credit bureaus, and then you click a button in the app that says, I sent my thing, and then after 40 days, they give them an extra 10 days. They repull your credit, and it remembers your original report, and it'll show you, hey, we got these 5 eliminated. These 7 weren't eliminated. So let's do it again. And you literally do it again. You give them another 30 days.
They slip up.
Eventually they slip up. After the 4th, or some can stick on for 4 or 5 times. And you just keep giving a different reason, a different reason. And it won't get rid of 100% of them, but like you can increase your credit considerably by doing this. If you give 4 or 5 months to this, and that's for the 30-day lates, the, credit, requesting new credit. It's not going to increase your credit if you're maxed out to the gills. So you do kind of have to make sure you're mindful of that. But yeah, so
bro, what's this called? I'm actually going to write it down. This is a fantastic idea.
So Credit Versio. You guys should like plug them to, pay you money to be pitching them like this.
You just made me like a customer.
I know, right? It's so great.
So I'm sitting here thinking, oh, should I buy a 4plex if it comes on the market? And I want to be ready to pull the trigger the second I see it. And so I'm trying to just get myself in a good spot. Do I have the down payment ready? Do I have whatever I need? So I need to be doing this 4 months out.
Yep, exactly. So, that's exactly right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, yeah.
Can we go back to I want to go back to the real estate thing. So,
yes,
my wife and I were like, "Ooh, what should we get? Should we get a house we want? Should we do that?" And I'm trying to be like, "Babe, let's not get anything. Let's get the 4plex first, because that way we can get the FHA, then go get whatever the hell we want after that point." Is that the right move?
I think so. I would. If you can do that, I absolutely would. If you can swing the down payment, if you can get your credit in line with it, I absolutely would, 100%.
Because with your 7 properties right now, are you net zero? Essentially, like month money in, money out. You're just kind of like, we're just essentially floating, and we're here for disasters, and we make some profit when it's good. Is that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, right now all of our properties cash flow, and they pay us more than the mortgage. So
amazing.
So we don't have any like real estate. I mean, we have a ton of mortgages, but we also have the passive income from those properties pays for the mortgages and then some.
And if something terrible was to happen, you have tons of equity.
Yeah. Yep. That actually did happen. That's a whole other story. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we had a whole roof disaster on our 4plex. Actually, the whole thing was flooded. We had to evict all 4 tenants.
Bro, I'm here asking you if
a year and a half worth of repairs.
Oh my gosh!
It was terrible. It was.
You paid a year and a half worth of mortgage and
it
repairs.
was ridiculous. Yes.
How did you pay that? What was your mortgage on it?
The debt waffle.
Yeah.
So when we were flipping houses, what you do when you flip houses is every 3 months you can request a credit line increase on your credit cards, and they'll usually give it to you. And so for the last 8, 9, 10 years, I've done that every 3 months. Hey, can I get more credit? Can I get more credit? Can I get more credit? And we had enough credit and we use personal loans too, to pay for this disaster. So I know I'm giving you the best and the worst all in one. So this is what I would say. What we did was, I'll just tell you what we did. And we did this so wrong. So our fourplex had a, roof leak issue. We're like, okay, well, send a roofer out. Well, our tenants sent they sent like a nasty letter to the city, and they're like, hey, because they were like pissy tenants.
Yeah.
I think what it was is they wanted us to replace a $70 their $70 pair of like, what is it, the thing that goes over the windows, like curtains or something. We're like, no, we're not going to replace your curtains. And so they got pissy after that. And so then they called the city, the health department, this place is leaking, and the city sent us a nasty letter. And so two things, we felt like we're under the gun, but it was like the rainy season to like fix it ASAP. And two, we tried to, so we met a guy that was like, trying to put his life back together. We invited him to church. We're like, hey, let's, try and get you on your feet. He's like, well, I'm a roofer. And we wanted to give this guy an opportunity to get back on his feet. He's a roofer. He's licensed in Oregon, not in California. So we had him replace the roof for us. That was our mistake.
Like hiring a friend. Should I not hire a friend to do
I would absolutely not. I would never hire a friend. I would find the most reputable company that you can, because a roof, you don't mess with roofs. You don't mess with roofs. You don't mess with foundation. Like it is worth the money to do it right. And that's what we learned. Also, another thing, 3 things. Make sure a company that you work with is, a lot of people throw out licensed and bonded. They'll throw that out because they have a license and they have a bond. Worthless, completely worthless. A bond is like $15,000. Our damages were like $150,000. And
oh wow.
And you want licensed, bonded, and insured. You want to make sure that they are insured, so that if you have to sue them, we actually pursued this roofer in court. We sued him, and he was not insured, and we got nothing from it. And he was running a cash business. He had no assets that we could pursue him for. So it was all out of pocket. So that was.
I'm gonna guess you're not friends anymore.
Oh no, we were. Well, the guy that we were like working with, he did it under another guy's license, and this is the guy that we sued because he was working under this guy's license. And we had a legal case. He just had no assets, and we could seize nothing from him for it. So that was our hard lesson. Don't do that, and you should be great. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
So let's say I want to get a fourplex. I'm going to look at the roof, make sure that it's decent, or if it's not decent, then make sure I'm in the place to make sure that it's going to be decent in however long I have. Is there
the reason that happened is we re-roofed the whole place. It wasn't that we were fixing a leaky roof. It was 30-year-old roof. It was leaking every year. We were like, hey, let's just re-roof it. So we paid this guy to re-roof it. And he was halfway through the project when a big storm came through. That's what happened.
Should I just put solar on it? Would that make it last longer? Probably not.
We've looked at doing solar on our fourplex. It doesn't make sense yet.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Okay. So essentially the Spark Notes is I should get the fourplex. I should do that before I do any other property next because I moved and I have the opportunity to use the FHA loan. I should, is there any amount that you would say, hey, if it's worth X amount, make sure you at the very first year you've got to pay it down to this part, so then you're safe. You can sleep at night. Or is there anything like
that? Not really. No. I mean, it's all personal risk tolerance. Appreciation is such right now that I wouldn't. This is where your own individual risk tolerance comes into play. I imagine there may be a correction, with interest rates going up. That means the thing with fourplexes, it's really interesting. When house values appreciate, fourplex values appreciate. But when house values depreciate, it can cause a little bit of a correction because people are looking to move out of renting. They want to buy a home. But then everybody wants to buy a home and house prices go back up, so we have never had an issue with it. That doesn't mean that we won't, but I wouldn't worry too much about, paying the balance down to a certain rate. The only other thing is that if you're under 20% equity in the property, you're going to have to pay mortgage insurance, which kind of sucks, but it's $200 a month. It's well worth not having to shell out $150,000 on a down payment. So
yeah, that would make a lot of sense. What about a nice area versus not nice area? Do you care?
I do. Okay, so some rules with that. You don't want to place by train tracks. You don't want to place by airports, because you don't want to place right by a freeway, because that's just going to lower the amount of rent that you can charge. Generally, those also will be cheaper, but make sure you're getting a good deal if you do buy. I just avoid them because I don't want to deal with that. You can. I like to call them like yellow areas. So there's green areas, which are like high affluence, opulence. Those are like they're like owner occupied properties, and you can kind of gauge it based on owner occupied versus not. Then there's yellow areas, which are kind of a mix. It's a nicer neighborhood, but it's not too nice. Those are the areas you want to like buy rentals in. And then you've got like orange zones where it's like, it's lower income. You're going to lower demographic of people. What you want to kind of do is you want to find a property that's in a place where a young married couple with one child would feel comfortable living there. That's kind of my rule of thumb.
Okay, that's good.
Because if you get that, like if it's not that, like then it's probably you're going to cut out a lot of people that are just not going to feel comfortable renting there. But if you're like a young married couple and you don't have a lot of money and you're looking for that first rental, or you just got married, or you just have your first kid or whatever, would you feel safe there? So if you want to get really granular at it, you can look up like crime rates, you can look up school scores. But that's kind of what I would say as far as, you don't really want to buy a rental in one of those green zones, because people, they're higher owner occupied, and your tenant it's going to be too expensive for a tenant to rent in those types of areas. But you kind of find that pocket. So that's what I would say.
Perfect. Okay. I feel very vindicated, and my wife's going to be very mad. I have officially won the conversation.
I'm so sorry.
No, she won't be mad. We were both thinking about it,
I'm
too.
super biased.
We were just totally vacillating on like, would it be nice to buy a nice property, or should we just go for the investment? And I really want to go for the investment. Oh my gosh, so bad. So desperately.
Especially if you guys want to have kids, like now is the time. Now is the time investment? To do the fourplex. Because when you have kids, it's like we have 3 kids now, and the thought of going back and renting, like living in an apartment, is just not really something that's feasible for us. Like we're not going to live with 3 kids and 2 adults in a 2-bedroom, 1 bed. I mean, we could. People do it, and I don't want to like stick my nose up at that. I know people do it, and it's a beautiful thing. And like having a loving family is not about where you live. I wholeheartedly believe that. But we have
Pakistan. I mean, even
then, people do a lot of beautiful things in a lot of hard places.
Yeah.
But it's just like we're used to a lifestyle that is not 5 people in a 2-bed, 1-bath apartment. And so now is the best time to do that while you're young. I mean, I'm still really young. I'm like younger than you are. But like while you're not single, if someone is single, this is a great time for it if you can qualify. But when you're married without kids, that's a great time. If you got 2 incomes, that also helps. So yeah,
perfect. Okay,
yeah,
I like that. Let's see here. I want to kick it to you. Did you have?
Yeah,
I would like to hear what you wanted to talk about today.
Well, actually, I mean, the real estate thing was kind of the first thing on my list of cool. Hey, that would I call it like house hacking.
Oh wait, I want to know really. Is it worth $30,000 to join a group of people?
Okay,
you probably earned more than $30,000 off of it, but are you happy about that choice?
So, that's a funny question to answer.
Yeah.
Because based on where I was, I didn't have any of this knowledge. And I knew that if I got the knowledge, and I didn't have an Andrew to ask. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't grow up in a family of people that invested in real estate. I had awesome, loving parents, but they just didn't know anything about real estate. And none of the people in my life really did. and I didn't have an opportunity to really ask anyone or learn this stuff. And so for me, it has paid off many times over. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have made so much more money in real estate than our cost of admission, and it made sense for us. Would I recommend it to someone else? If you were in the position I was, probably. That being said, it was a lot of these gurus, a lot of these companies, they are they can be kind of not greedy, but they're like shystery. It's like what they do is you go to a free seminar, mm-hmm. and then they upsell you to a $500 seminar, and then they upsell you at the $500 seminar. They hustle the hell out of you. And what they did with us is they got us to put $25,000. Some people put $50,000 plus on credit cards to buy their program, and we did it. And like they hustle you like mad.
How did you feel that night? Did you? I would be sweating.
Oh my god,
bullets.
I was like, we were like 20 years old, and up until 3 a.m. talking and praying about if this was the right decision for us, and we decided to do it. And so it was very like one of those stressful things. But that's how a lot of these like guru company hustle companies, they do it. Some people paid $50,000 plus for it.
But okay, you're a smart guy though. Mm-hmm. So you knew that they're not like going to take the money and run. They committed to giving you value, and they gave you the value that they said
did.
They would.
They did. They did. Now the thing with that is we could have chosen not to use it, and a lot of people do. A lot of people choose not to use it, and then they call the company scams because it didn't make them rich overnight. Yeah. And so you'll get a lot of bad reviews on companies like this. But it's like, I mean, if some of your students are successes, like I would consider us successes, mm-hmm. that validates the model. And there are people that spent $20,000 to $50,000 and did nothing with the knowledge and blame the company because they didn't do it right. Now, if you have like someone, it does. Oh my gosh. Don't, yeah. Well, that was our thought. Is like, instead of going to college, we're going to buy this. We're going to go into debt to learn this, and that's going to be our education. And it was. But if you have someone like an Andrew or someone else in your life that has done it, that you can ask questions for, that's kind of willing to take someone under your wing, like that makes a ton of sense.
Do that. If you can, use the resources you have. Okay.
Yep.
You've started businesses. You've done real estate.
Yes. Yep.
Which one do you like better?
What do I like better? I think they fill different roles. Okay. I think I like real estate better because I'm more of a plant seeds for the long term kind of guy. And I've had really good and really bad stuff happen in both real estate and business. Mm-hmm. I think I do like real estate a little bit better. It feels safer to me, and it's delayed gratification. And I'm a very much a delayed gratification person. The reason I like real estate a bit better, well, here, I'll say this. I think they serve different purposes. Mm-hmm. Starting businesses is great to increase your income. Mm-hmm. It is great for flexibility. It is great for experience. And you can sell that business. I think real estate is, I really like having a tangible hard asset. That's really what I like. It's not, so if something terrible happens, you're kind of insulated from that, if that makes sense. So I've taken out business loans, and things have fallen apart at different points in my business journey. And those business loans were personally guaranteed by me. And what that means is that lender can go after any of my assets, including my real estate. That sucks. Now with real estate, it's different. The asset, the loan on the asset is guaranteed by the asset. So if you've got 10 properties and you foreclose on one, well, they can't claw back the other 9 unless you personally guarantee it, which you never should do. And lenders don't typically ask for that. So based on me going through the ringer in both sides a little bit, I like the safety of real estate. It's not as like, you're not going to get into real estate and have it become your day job. That's just not really feasible. But what you can do with real estate is you can buy properties over time and then wake up, 10 years down the road, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, and you have 3 paid off mortgages, and that's your retirement. You don't have to work anymore, and even sooner, honestly, because you raise your rents every so many years, and eventually you.
How often? Dude, we're going to wait. Maybe this is just the real estate podcast. This is great.
The real estate podcast.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay with me.
Yeah.
Realistically, can you buy a new house let's say you buy a house, you buy a fourplex, right? It cash flows immediately. Yay, month one. That's a fantastic fourplex you just purchased. You can't turn around and buy another house at that point because you are still in huge amounts of debt. And the banks will say, hey, bucko, you got a lot of debt here.
Correct.
How many years, how many months, how long until I can get the next property?
Yeah. Great question. That is a limitation that a lot of investors do face. Because the more properties you have, the less likely a bank is going to, like, the more debt you have, the less likely they're going to be to give you more debt. Now, what you can do with lenders and what we've done every time we've bought new properties is if the property has been rented for a year or longer, you can use the property's rent value to count as your income when you're qualifying.
Oh, great.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now instead of making, $80,000 a year, you actually make $130,000 a year. Or instead of $130,000, now you make $170,000. Well, you don't actually take that home because everything above 80 goes to pay your mortgages, but they count that as income. So while your expenses go up, your income goes up, and they use what's called a debt to income ratio to determine if they're going to lend you money. A person can, I don't remember the exact figure. It was a number of years ago that I remember this from, but I think you could rent like between 7 and 13, not rent. You could have between 7 and 13 mortgages, somewhere around there, before you can't have any more. There is a stipulation on that.
Oh, and then you just have to buy it outright.
Or what some people have done. I don't personally feel comfortable with this, but I've actually known real estate investors who I do not recommend this. It goes against my personal values. But I know investors who, like, they're married couple and they actually get a divorce from each other so that each of them individually can have 13 properties.
I've heard of this. This is like, isn't it like in Texas, you can sue your spouse if you guys get into a car accident and then you can make money off of each other's insurance?
Oh, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. That's wild.
It's like, this is, oh, that's awful. It's like totally abusing the system.
It is.
I can't decide if I agree with it or not.
Right. Well, and what you could do, actually like just have me get a loan. That is possible, but then I can't, and then it's only me on the loan, but I can't use my wife's income to qualify. So if one of you can use your income to qualify, and the other can use their income to qualify, that's
and you can
great.
Use anybody's down payment money. It doesn't matter. That's totally fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, that's the better way.
Yeah. That being said, 7 to 13 properties. Now, for us, technically, we only have 3 properties. We have 7 doors, but we have 3 properties, and so we're nowhere near close to that.
Are you buying another one soon? Are you looking for another one?
We're not at the moment. We're kind of sitting back, just kind of seeing where the market goes. I would still advise people to, but we without going into detail, we went through we went through the ringer on some things, not real estate related. Actually, it was business related.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why I'm a little bit more gun shy of business than real estate. I've gone through the ringer on both various points in my life, and I'm just gun shy on the business one a bit. And so we're actually just looking to pay off mortgages so that we can get more. Right now, we're at the point where we have the most recent property we bought was like our family farm, and we got a really big mortgage on that. And so it's trickier for us to get new mortgages now, but we have young kids and we really wanted to give them that experience.
Yeah.
And so we're more interested in like paying off a couple mortgages, than we are in, getting new ones. Cause for me, it's not really about creating a big empire, It's about really getting your time back and your life back so that you don't have to work for money, and then you can work out of passion. Now, it's great when you work out of passion and you do work for money, but it's just a different experience when it's exclusively out of passion. And we actually have enough real estate that, if we paid our mortgages off, we're good. We're covered. And rather than having to, keep doing the hustle or the grind to get more and more and more, we're not motivated by money. We're motivated by time. And so that's why we're actually not necessarily looking for new properties at this point.
Okay. That's unfortunate because I have a fourplex I'd love for you to co-sign with me.
Okay. And, we're not close to opportunities.
Okay,
if an opportunity comes down the road, we're like, we're not like hunting them down, but I always will entertain real estate opportunities.
That's so
especially
funny.
if the numbers make sense.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay.
So,
that's good.
Yeah.
Which one? Okay. Between the two, I'm just assuming you've made a lot more money off of real estate than business at this point. Is that correct?
That's hard to say. I've been a business owner for almost 10 years now, and that has paid my salary for the last 10 years. And so if you math it all out, it's really hard to say, really. I mean, I have planted more seeds for future income with real estate than business. I will say that.
Okay.
But business ownership is what paved the way for me to do that. There are some things to remember about being a business owner. When you're a business owner, if you own your own company, you're considered self-employed by lenders, which means you have to show them 2 years worth of tax returns in order to qualify. Whereas if you're a W-2 employee, it's 2 months. I was a W-2 employee of my company, but they still wanted 2 years worth of tax returns. And so you have to show profit. But what's cool about being a business owner, and this is why they kind of like go together really well. As a business owner, if I wanted to buy property, I could just take fewer deductions and it shoots my income way up on paper, on our taxes. You pay more in taxes, but you can do that. And when I wasn't looking to buy a property, then I write off everything I can and I pay very little in taxes. And so you kind of get more control over your income on paper as a business owner than you do just as a W-2 employee. So they do go hand in hand. It does give you an extra dial to turn if you're looking to invest in real estate. Incidentally, we've generally always bought our properties around springtime, which is conveniently the time where corporate returns are filed. And so we would decide at that point whether we wanted higher income or lower income based on, what we were looking to do. So, and we've actually had lenders tell us how much we need to make on paper to qualify for a loan so that then we can go file our taxes.
Can they do that?
Not really. Yeah. I mean, they're actually, I'll say this. There's nothing against them. There's nothing that says that they can't tell you this is how much you need to make to qualify for this dollar amount. And that's what they did. And I just made sure that I made that much when I filed my taxes. But you do pay more to Uncle Sam. When you do that, when you drive your income up, you pay more in taxes. So it's kind of the cost, an additional cost of buying the property, unless you go back and amend your taxes, which is a possibility.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Bro, you got me excited. I want to know what the ratio is of income to debt, or what it is.
Debt to income?
Yeah, debt to income ratio. Do you know what
it is? Gosh, offhand, I'm not remembering.
I'm gonna look up really fast.
Yeah, you can probably, exactly. You probably just look it up, what DTI they recommend. But yeah, you do want to pay down, if you've got credit cards, they won't lend to you if you have a too high of a debt to income ratio. But getting cosigners will reduce that considerably if your cosigners have a good debt to income ratio.
They say at or below 43%.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for me? If I'm buying a $500,000 property, and the second I am able to, I want to buy a second $500,000 property.
Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to have rent history for the bank to loan you money on that. Now I'm not a lender, so I can't don't want to take this as financial advice. That's my disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't sue me.
I'm just asking you funny questions.
Yeah. That's right. But I think you have to have at least 1 year's worth of history, and it's actually a little more than a year because you have to be able to show the rental income from that property on your tax return. So if you buy it in July, Well, you're going to only have a half a year's worth of income on that property on that year's tax return. You want a whole year's worth of rents to show on your next tax return so that you can show the bank, hey, I have a higher income. So while I am asking for a higher mortgage, I have income to match it. And so as long as you always do that, and as long as you're always making more on the property than your mortgage is, then you generally should be able to get a loan for another property. That makes sense.
Okay. So I'm buying a property a year.
Yep. Yeah. Year and a half ish.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
But then I don't get my 3% loan. So I have to move every
well, you
year
can. You can. You have to move every year as well. That's the trick.
Wait, do I have to move? Can I move in the same city, or do I have to move?
So what you have to do, you can. You have to give the bank a valid reason why you have to move. And you have to understand.
So if I'm a growing family, so I got my 5-plex or whatever, I'm like, sorry, we had kids. I didn't think we were going to have kids. I thought we were just, and then I need a farmhouse. I need a.
That's right. That's right. So you got to understand, these lenders, they want to give you money. They want to sell you a loan. They are fighting against regulations to get you into the house. So they want you to borrow from them. So like you just need to give them the right reasons to. They just need to check the boxes. And I wouldn't recommend this if you weren't a savvy person. But for a savvy person, because the regulations exist for a purpose. They exist to make sure that people aren't getting into loans they can't afford. But if you're a savvy person and you know how to manage money and how to manage investments, then, a little bit of using the system to your advantage is warranted. And so like the reason can even be as simple as like when we moved from our 4-plex to our house, we said, we want to start a family and we want to live in a house. We didn't even have kids at that point. We just said we want to start a family. And we moved 2 miles from our 4-plex. You could buy another 4-plex. If you can say I'm moving jobs and I want a property closer to my other job, like it's all you have to do is write a letter of explanation and give it to your lender. Nobody really reads it. They just have to be able to defend it. If somewhere down the road, someone ever comes to them and says, why did you give this loan? Oh, well, they have a letter of explanation. They signed it. They said this is why they wanted to move and they had a valid reason.
Is there ever any regulation on, do they regulate people living in the house? You have to say you're going to live there, but if something happens the day before you move in and you don't live there, is it ever regulated?
I have never, ever seen any kind of follow up on that regulation. That's not to say it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it. Yeah. And I don't think there's any enforcement of that at all. But I don't know. I've just never experienced it. So I can't say that there's not. I can just say that I've never experienced it. So,
dude, okay. So this is something that's wrong with America, in my opinion, and I hate this. Yeah. You can cash flow a 4-plex or whatever you want to get.
Yep.
You can cash flow. I mean, my house is cash flowed. I don't even think about it, and I don't want to think about it. I really don't want that phone to ever ring. I want it to just exist and accumulate
mailbox
interest.
Money.
Yeah, that's what I want. But the thing I had to do before that is I had to have a job. I had to have a good paying job. And my job wasn't even that. I was making $60,000 a year at the time. Yeah. And I was able to get the house, and then instantly the house cost me nothing. I have many friends who have normal hourly paying jobs who can't afford to just get the house because the bank will give it to them, even though it'll pay them the same way it pays me.
Yep. That's right.
That's what's messed up, man. Yep. I hate that.
I hate it too. I absolutely hate it. I think it's ridiculous that people can't qualify for a home when they're paying double what they would pay on a mortgage in rent. And there's so much just about the system that I think is really, if you want my honest opinion, I think that's what we're here. We're an 8 out of 10 on the
finance.
So this is what I think. I think that our society and society as a whole is moving towards rent everything, own nothing. That's what I think. I think that the wealth is accumulating towards the top. And I'm generally fiscally conservative and even socially conservative in my, like, I don't want to get political and everything. I think there's a lot of really great points on the left, and I can hang. Like, I can hang with that. I really can. I've got friends that are like so far to the left that's ridiculous, and we agree on a lot of stuff. But I'm in most areas I'm generally more conservative.
Theory. You ever heard of horseshoe theory?
I haven't. No, what is this?
It's I find it to be so true. So, people, let's say you lean left. You lean so far left that your views kind of wrap around slightly back to the right.
My gosh.
But it's for completely different reasons. And if you think about it socially, anything like that, it's 100% true. I find that to be absolutely
That's so funny. Well, I think the further you go into it, what I believe, and this maybe is getting a little politics, but we're an 8 out of 10 on the bluntness scale. So I'll just share it. Yeah. Like, I don't think that it is as much a left versus right. I think socially, there's left things on the left, things on the right that, socially that are, issues that people diverge on. But I think the whole duality of political system exists to keep the left and the right distracted, because the real, I don't want to call it oppression, but it's top versus bottom. I think people on the right and people on the left, like when you boil it down to the people who are the ruling class, they both want the same thing. They want the people who exist, who are already in power, to absorb more and more of society's wealth, and to not challenge the status quo. And so the reason that you can't buy properties, even though you're paying double the amount in rent, is because all of these massive mega corporations and all of these wealthy, people at the very top, they want more of the real estate, and they want people to own less of it. They want more renters than owners because they want to own it all. And so they're making it more difficult for the individuals to buy, because that reduces their pool of available renters. I think that, and I don't think it's like there's this collective of 10 people in a room that are like making all the decisions. I think it's just naturally the way that, not to use a term that is a little bit charged, but late stage capitalism, people with wealth rise to the top, and then those people pay off politicians to do the things they want that are in their best interest. Well, what's in your best interest as a person, right or left, Democrat or Republican, at the very top? Well, I want to own more real estate because real estate appreciates. I don't want more real estate built, because when more real estate is built, it lowers the demand and raises the supply. Well, I don't want that. So I want overregulation, and I want it to be harder for people to buy houses, because it's not hard for me to buy them, but I want to eliminate my competition, which is the little people, so that they're all renting from me. And so I think right versus left is a distraction. I think it's really top versus bottom, and over time, you get big mega corporation, mega companies that are just gobbling up real estate left and right. I don't want to name any names because it could get me in hot water.
Names,
but like,
bro, name some names.
Just Google search biggest investment firms investing in real estate, and I mean, you'll see they are just gobbling up houses left and right, gobbling up rentals left and right. And I think this shows that they see the value of real estate, because with inflation, and okay, this is even worse. Oh man, you're getting me started here.
No, I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
So inflation is in their best interest, because when inflation occurs, your property value goes up and your spending power goes down, right? And so the more inflation happens, their assets rise in value. I mean, it's benefited me inadvertently because I own a small percentage of the real estate that exists. And so my real estate goes up when things inflate. And so for me, it's a hedge against inflation because my real estate value goes up at the same level or greater than inflation. And so when you're a super wealthy mogul at the top, and you've got a portfolio of, 5,000 properties, well, inflation going up 10%, just raise your net worth by a ridiculous amount of money. And it made it harder for people to buy because they are spending more of their money on food and more of their money on rent, that they don't have anything left over. And so it kind of squashes down. So what I think they're doing is they're like trying to squash the people down. And really what it is it's I'm going to get this might sound radical, might sound conspiracy theorist, but it's like when you're an oligarchy, or when you're at the very, very top, really people want more money and they want more control and more power. And the ultimate example of that is slavery, right? You're Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and you just own a bunch of slaves, right? Well, how do you get people to be slaves without knowing that they're slaves? You make life harder and harder and harder and harder for them over a long span of time, and you take their options away. And I think I'm not saying that they're trying to make everyone slaves, but they're just trying to extract as much value and money from as many people as they can. And it's not like it's some wealthy person at the top of a hill, wanting people to suffer.
You are like,
they're just, go on.
Yeah, you're wildly agreeing with everybody who's anti-capitalism. And you're so
which is crazy. Yeah, I'm generally pro-capitalism.
Funny. It's so funny. Also, dude, no, slavery has already existed in us. The most recent example, this is so funny to think about. I heard about this a while back. So COVID hits, right? What happens? Well, everybody doesn't have to work. What do? They get to go home and they're going to get unemployment, really good unemployment. Here's a big problem though. If you do have a job and you quit your job, you don't get that unemployment. So let's say you're a grocery store worker and you have a really, really bad heart condition. Well, you can't quit your job at the grocery store, even though you have to deal with people every single day, and that might actually kill you. So, oh shoot, you are stuck. You are stuck in the system. Thus, you are a slave to the system because you can't quit, right? So it does exist, but it exists in like smaller areas and weird pockets and gaps that we accidentally create. I don't think that it's intentional. That's one thing I would disagree with you on that. Is you said it's right versus left is a distraction. Maybe it is a distraction. I don't think it's like... Dude, I don't think people wake up and say, hey, I'm going to be an asshole today and take over the world. I just think that they get a lust for the power and it just never stops. So I wouldn't say that they're saying, hey, we're going to distract people with the smoke screen over here while we slip in the back here. But maybe I've got rose-colored glasses on. I don't know.
No, and I would say, I think my opinion is I think there are some people that do that, that just wake up and want to divide. But I think by and large, the system is not like... a cabal of wealthy people with their mustaches trying to figure out how to crush the little people. It's just the system is set up such that everyone is incentivized to make decisions that make their wealth grow. And generally that's at the expense of someone else, but that they're not like thinking, I want to crush the little people. It's just the way our system is set up does that. And I want to also like speak to what you said. I'm speaking things that sound radically leftist, but I'm generally a capitalist. Why? How can that be the case, right? So, and let me kind of explain that. What I believe, and maybe call me a radical centrist. I don't know, or maybe libertarian. I'm not sure, but I kind of like the term radical centrist. Can I coin that? I'm a radical centrist. And this is why.
It's oxymoronic in its intention, but keep going.
And this is why I'm a radical centrist, because I don't believe it's right versus left. I believe it's top versus bottom. And I believe if people can unite on something, on some fronts, that a lot more can be done. I think there are social issues that people aren't going to agree on, but if you can look past some of that, you can actually accomplish a lot. But the reason that I believe that is that I am very, very, very pro small business. Okay. I'm not saying I have a solution to this. But this is kind of my solution. I'm super pro small business. I think capitalism combined with small business and ease of access to starting businesses and entrepreneurship is the most healthy form a society can take. What happens and what has happened, I think, are, that's where our country started, right? We started with very, very capitalist society. The internet didn't exist. You could go into business doing whatever you want. And we had a great period of prosperity for that. Well, the internet came, the world became smaller because we're so interconnected. That led to the rise of mega corporations and acquisitions. I mean, how many food brands do you know that just get gobbled up by bigger brands? Like one of the ones that my wife is still bitter about is, I think it's Annie's, like Annie's mac and cheese. We used to buy it all the time, because it was natural, GMO, little bunny, like non-GMO, little bunny rabbit, and then they got gobbled up by Kraft. And I don't know if the recipes have changed, but that's what you'll see happen. Not with this one, but you'll see the recipes change.
The profit structure's changed, but maybe it hasn't. Maybe they've just kept it exactly the same, and they just want to have the corner market. But anyway, keep going.
But I think that's what happens. Is that, and it makes sense. I don't blame the people at Annie's because, when Kraft offers you $2 billion or $50 million, you're done. Your kids, but, and that but that is the system that is the problem, because when things become so big that it's, I mean, one corporation, I think 1 to 5 company, like I don't remember the exact statistics, but it's like 5 companies control all the media in the entire United States. Yeah. And so when it becomes so big, what do you have? You have the same problem that exists with communism, which is all the power at the top. So when you go too far to the left, you get all the power at the top. And that's communism, right? Yeah. That's what everyone, we're so afraid of communism. Yeah. Well, when you're on the right and you go too far into mega corporations, all the power's at the top. And it's the same problem. It is the same problem. And that's why I would call myself a radical centrist, because I don't want power to be funneled to the top in either side. I think giving the people quick, easy access to small business and I think part of this is a society thing. Like whenever I can, I do business with small business because I want those to thrive. But it's so hard when Amazon offers 2-day shipping. They have the cheapest prices and you can return it within 90 days.
That. Even if you give, let's say you lower all the barriers to entry. There are no barriers to entry. If I come into your town and I have $1 billion in my bank and you have a restaurant and you have a damn good restaurant, well, I'm going to be like, well, shoot, I'm going to open a restaurant next door and I'm going to commit to losing money for the next 1 year of my life. Because I know after a year, you're going to go out of business. I'm going to take your whole clientele. Then I'll just raise the prices. Sounds good to me. Boom. Even if you had the best, like no barrier to entry, it wouldn't work. There's not an easy way to beat a conglomerate of that kind of power.
Yeah. And that's why I say, like, I don't have a great solution. I know what the end goal is. The end goal is, a society made up of relatively, small to medium businesses that are local businesses doing business with one another. Maybe some mega corporations exist for things that actually require lots of resource. But I mean, I don't know how to get there. And I acknowledge that. And I recognize that. I wish I did. I wish someone would come up with a solution to that. But this is IdeaDrop. So maybe the solution to that is we start a new political party called radical centrism.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's a lot of money in those.
In college, I was obsessed with this exact problem right here. Because I would see the exact same thing that you're talking about. So there's these CEOs that are getting paid millions and millions and millions and millions for companies that have all control. And then on the left, you see, these politicians who have just so much control. It's like, wow, everything has a huge problem. I came up with the solution in college. I don't think it would work, but here's my college age solution.
Hit me. Let's go.
It has to be a social change, a social movement. And the movement isn't like an anti-anything. It's just you have to control your own subsistence strategy, as in everybody has their own garden and everybody maintains their own house. And so that means anybody can get as big as they want, but if you own your own property, just your own property, and however, I don't know how you would make that work. I don't know if you endow it to people or what do you do. But if everybody had like, no, we all know how to do our own basic living problems are covered. And then beyond that, it's a rat race and have fun, knock yourself out. But even at your lowest point, you still have your house, you still have your food. That was my college solution. I just don't know how to get down there. You know what I mean?
How do you get to that point?
Yeah, it just doesn't. Totally. It just doesn't work. I mean, you would need it has to be like a social norm for it to be. Yeah, it's impossible. I got no solution for you, man.
Yeah. No, I don't either. And I mean, I think I don't know. I think there is enough wealth in the world to create a much better living situation for everyone, but trying to get that wealth to the people who would benefit from it, from the super rich and powerful, without creating the same problem on the other side.
Dude, it's terrible
because then you're like,
okay, but how about this, Andrew? You're part of the problem, right? So you own 7 doors. Oh my gosh, that means you are making money off of people. You're making money off of people who cannot. Like they're stuck in their situation, and you're benefiting from it.
I am. So this is how I don't know that I want to use the word justify it, but I consider myself a small business and every man or woman evangelist. And so I would rather create people like me.
You too can abuse 7 separate families. I'm sorry. I'm being harsh.
No, it's great because like I would gladly sit down with one of my tenants and say, let me show you. They don't. Yeah. Like if I just happened to run into one of my tenants on the street and they didn't know I owned it, so they couldn't beg me for money and nickel and, whatever, I would gladly teach them all this. And I've taught a lot of people this kind of stuff, just friends and family, people I meet, because I would rather lose a tenant and put a new tenant in there and have that tenant start building their own resources and their own assets. Like I don't want, because for me, it's like, well, my tenant who moves out of my place to buy their own place or buy their own fourplex is taking a fourplex from the major conglomerates. Like and for me, it's like, I'm not trying to build this massive mega empire. I'm like, I want to reclaim time for myself and my family and leave a bit of a legacy. And I mean, it's the same with business. It's like, it's why I love what you guys are doing. I love the podcast. Like I love talking to people about businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses, because it takes some of that power away from the top and it gives it back to the people. And for people that are of like mind, that are like, I don't want to start a mega conglomerate. I don't want to hustle till the day I die. Like those are my people. Like those are the people that like, let me teach you and help you do this. And so, yes, I am profiting off of people who are renting my properties. But you know what else I do? Or rather what I don't do? I don't raise rents every year and I don't max it out either. The maximum rent you can raise per year. And I'm not saying it's wrong, especially in an inflationary environment where costs are increased and you have to pay more in maintenance. But the maximum, at least in California, that you can raise rent, I think last I recall, is 6% per year. And so your income can go up by up to 6% per year when you rent out a property. Well, I don't like throwing 6% at families every year and just requiring that. I feel bad. And so actually, okay, listen to this. I would rather lose a tenant because they of their own volition go and buy a house. Then I can refill the unit at its current market rate, rather than having to raise the rent on this tenant. Because there's no limit to how much you can increase rents when someone moves out. And so could we raise rents more frequently? We could. And do we? We don't max it out because it's just not something. We're not out to like nickel and dime person and take every penny we can from them. And I would much rather the system be filled with people like us than, like, we have some really great friends that they're trying to save up money to buy a house and they live in an apartment, and every year on the dot, 6%. And it's like a big 50 unit apartment complex. And I mean, that hurts. That sucks. And you do have to raise your rents here and there. Usually we do it every other year is how we do it. But I would much rather do this process and teach other people like us how to do this process and empower those people to it. So that's how I sleep at night.
I admire that. Okay. I can get behind a lot of that. I really quick before we probably have to finish it up, but I want to ask you a couple of things. First thing, actually the only thing, how did you choose what your number was to stop? I know you said time, but time is very related to numbers in this game. Yeah. So what was it? Were you thinking like, I just want to have a good national average? Like I know I can make this much a year, so then let's stop the advance. If you will.
The acquisition of properties.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways that people can do that. For us, it was pretty much, okay, well, let's sit down and look at our family's base expenses. And then let's look at our, our income from our rental properties. And once we get to a point where our family's base expenses, this is actually, and it depends on your horizon. If you want to not have to work in 10 years, the number will be different from 5 years or 20 years. If you want to not have to work in 30 years, then you could buy one fourplex, maybe two, and be done, and then work for 30 years. And then after 30 years, you're done. If you want to retire in 10 years, well, then maybe you buy 3 or 4 fourplexes, and you do raise the rents when people move out. You raise them by, bring it up to the current market rent. Maybe you're raising it Maybe you are raising it 6% every year. I don't know. Some areas that might be sensible. But if you're doing what we do and you don't, you raise it 18% when they move out and you get a new tenant in there, kind of math it out based on, okay, so if we buy one fourplex and we assume 6% per year rent increases, well, now it's just breaking even. But 5 years from now, if you math that out, 5% rent or 6% rent increases every year, we'll be making this much. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of use that, you math that out to say, okay, if we have one fourplex, 5 years from now, how much are we making on this fourplex? Okay, if we have two, how much are we making on this fourplex? So it's the factor of two numbers. One, what are your daily living expenses? Your annual living expenses. And two, how much can you bring in from any particular rental property? And that gives you leeway. You can control in two areas. So you're not just controlling, because it's just a math equation at that point. Mm-hmm. You're controlling how much revenue you bring in through the real estate, but you can also, like, if you can find a way to cut your living expenses in half, you literally just cut your time horizon in half. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a whole community of people. I think they call it
you got famous on TikTok for this, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah. I remember.
Oh, the food thing. Is it the food thing? Yeah.
Viral overnight. It was awesome.
Yeah. I actually just I stopped doing that overnight too.
No.
It was like a little fun thing. And then I got interested in other things. I want to pick it. It was fun. I would probably pick it up again. I went on this not tirade, but like we tried a little experiment on how cheap we could make our food, our meals. And we got to like sub $1. And on my like third video, we got like, I don't know, 250,000 views in like 3 days or something like that. And I know it's not as much as you guys get, but like, I was like, okay, so there's a market here of people that want to reduce their expenses.
Yeah, definitely. There's always a market for that. There's always a market. Yeah, actually, that's funny. I always think there's a market. I'll say actually, I want to see what you respond to this. Here's the preamble. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Good businesses either bring you closer to death, closer to immortality, closer to sex, or closer to society. So,
okay, there's a lot there.
People get a lot of joy out of death, right? So, cigarette smoking, skydiving, anything that's flirting with death, people want it. Drugs of every kind. It's like, ooh, it's just this accordion of death. Look at little babies. Their first peekaboo, where they're gone. Like it's separation, right? You can even go down there. Your father throws you up in the air. That's exciting, right? So there's that. If you have a business around that. Immortality, everybody's always wanting that. So if you can sell me something that's going to make me younger, look younger, feel younger, act younger, it's going to work. If you can, what was the other one I said? Sex, right? So sex obviously sells. That's just a human biological thing. That's like if air wasn't for sale and you could sell it, then
oh my gosh,
people would buy it.
I've joked with this with my wife so much. I'm like, man, if my moral values allowed me to do OnlyFans, like I would get so ripped and I would play that game.
I totally.
But I don't. There's reasons.
But dude, it's even weirder, like with the feet thing, right? So if it's something that you don't find sexual, but somebody else finds it sexual, does that mean that it's now inappropriate for you to do it if they find it? It's a whole societal. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. No, I don't. My personal spiritual beliefs, I don't feel comfortable doing it. But there is a monetary opportunity there. I'm not gonna
certainly,
lie.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. Oh, I actually find it just much more fascinating, like on human. So it's let's just go straight into that. What do they want? They want to reap all the benefits of a relationship without any of the work. Right? That's
correct.
Interesting. So they want like this weird dopamine hit of connection. It's like they want to know your secret. But they don't want to do the work to get to the secret. It's like this weird, like, how does that work in the human psychology?
Yeah. I think it's like frosting on cake. They want the frosting without the cake.
That's exactly it.
Because they want to know, but with OnlyFans.
Yeah.
But the thing with OnlyFans is you can't be known. And that's actually where the health and the meat of love and relationship comes in. Is
totally.
I'm known and I'm seen and I'm accepted and I'm loved. And that I think is what like people's core like their heart longs for, is to be seen, known, accepted, and loved. And OnlyFans, you get it one way, like as a viewer, you see, know, accept, and love the person on the screen. And you sort of interact with them too. You know, you can kind of interact a bit, but they don't know you. They don't see you. They don't love you. So So obviously you're getting the, sexual stimulation of that, of watching them and enjoying it. But like,
but it's even more interesting than that, because why would you pay money for something that you can get for free? So it's this weird, if you add an obstacle, the person now wants it, because it's very interesting.
Yeah. I think it gives that additional sense of intimacy, right? It's kind of like the halfway. You're like halfway to intimacy. Like if you just watch porn online, there's zero intimacy. It's just a video.
And it just
if you're OnlyFans, you're halfway intimate because you're communicating, sort of, and they respond, sort of, but and them, sort of, but they don't know you at all. So it's like you get more intimacy, which is what people really want, I think. But it's not this over here.
Man, it's so interesting. So I was talking to a lawyer, right? And he was telling me about this trip he was taking through Europe. And there was some war in some country. I don't think it was one of the big ones. But anyways, he asked a local in that country, he said, hey, what do you think about this? And the guy said the most interesting observation. He said, well, it was weird. After our country was completely taken over, they took away all of our nude beaches and they put pornography in the bookstores. And it's like, really? Whoa. Well, yeah. So it's just because they restricted it, then there became a market for it. Because it was free and available, people didn't give a shit. Now it's dangerous. And now I pay for it. Human psychology is so weird.
That is so wild. Yeah.
It's so weird. Anyways, and then my last one that I said was any social thing. So if it brings you closer to the social norm, people will pay for it. Look at literally etiquette lessons, like anything that makes you, I want to act like a normal person. People giving confidence lessons, anything like that. Like everybody just
oh my gosh, that's so true. Yep. I want to look better. I want to posture better. Everybody's got an iPhone. I want an iPhone.
That's exactly it. 100% that. Exactly it. Anyways, that's my I think it was 4 theories of That's all I got, bro. I think I had some business ideas for you, but I think we just let it be this. It was such a good real estate interesting.
I love talking about real estate. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, especially to a newer audience. Like to people that aren't in real estate. I love unpacking all of the secrets that I know. And because there's a lot of money that you can make in it. And it is harder now because of inflation and prices going up, but it's still possible. And I love it. I really do love it. And if you guys have me on again, we can definitely talk about businessy ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
But I might still steer the conversation towards real estate, because real estate is business. It is a business. You can start a real estate business. I have 7 of them. So,
oh my gosh, that's awesome, dude.
Well, 7 doors, a bit. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I am legitimately, we're looking. And so I'm going to hit you up for some advice, and maybe we'll even just talk about it on the podcast. And you can tell me what's good, what's not good.
Yeah. Let's do that.
That'd be really, really fun. Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
I'll catch you later, bro.
All right. See you later, Dustin. It's been great.
See ya.